the essence of what Sheena's Place was in the beginning. I still feel it every time I walk in the door. And there's something kind of magical about that in spite of the many, many hands who have passed the baton forward, there's still that wonderful energy where people feel that they've got a safe haven or an oasis of support, where people believe in them, and there's some services there to really help them learn to believe in themselves.
We were very diligent in trying to get to the bottom of what clients wanted and needed. That's where the idea formed. And we went from that concept to what could do the most good for the most people. That allowed us to create our resource support center here for those with eating disorders and those who love them.
And I walked in and someone who worked there was standing in the kitchen, and she said to me, she's like, "Oh, hi, are you here for one of our classes?" And I said yes, and it was the first day. And she's like, "Oh yeah, I can show you where." She goes, "I'm making a cup of tea though, do you want a cup of tea?" And then I was just like, "Oh, okay, like, yeah, sure." So she made me a cup of tea, and she just like kind of small talked with me a little bit as she was making the tea, like she had known me for all of these years.
And I remember just walking into Sheena's Place, and instantly I just felt the warmth, the comfort, the confidentiality, everything about it was just, phew, I'm in the right place.
I was so pleasantly surprised, and I felt very like put at ease, really. Just like the simple act of making someone tea, it really took the edge off of me. So by the time I came in and sat down, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be fine. This is fine. It was really, really welcoming, and it did set the tone for what the rest of the course was gonna be like for me throughout those 2 months or so that I was here. It was great.
And I remember actually coming upstairs into this very room where I'm sitting right now. And I remember the facilitator just going around and asking everybody how their loved one was doing. And I remember sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, this one's been sick for 3 years, this one's been sick for 5 years. We're gonna wrap this up in a year. There's just no question about it. And here I am, 20 odd years later, and we are totally in a different space with our daughter. She's done absolutely amazing over the past, I would say, 18 months. Just acknowledge and know that she's amazing, absolutely amazing.
I felt a lot of pressure to be skinnier than I was. I had grown up kind of a chubby child in school, and I just remember being teased a lot because I was quite large, and also being ostracized both by teachers and by students and classmates. And I decided to diet and lost a lot of weight and ended up in hospital. And I went back to school about a month later, and I had so much positive attention. That was a profound life experience because it really did say to me that people do judge you, they do accept you based on how you look. And that started anorexia for several years. And then I developed bulimia and struggled with that for many, many years, for over 20 years. My first memory of Sheena was just this gorgeous spirit who just really radiated so much light and super friendly, just a really beautiful spirit. And when I met Sheena, and after a little while, I could sort of see some telltale signs that said to me that maybe she had an eating disorder. And one day we found ourselves talking.
Lynn was my executive assistant at the time, and Lynn was a single mom, and Sheena had basically grown up within the Sun family. She came there after school to do homework, so we all knew her. And Lynn confided in me that she was really worried about Sheena and the weight she was losing, and couldn't get through to her to really find out what was going on. And that was the start of the road we went down to try to get help for her and to find out what the essence of her problem was.
I shared my story with her, and she opened up immediately and shared that she was struggling with an eating disorder. And therein started this close relationship for a while, where she said I was the first person and the only person with whom she could talk. It was comforting, but at times I was also the last person that she wanted to connect with because I knew her secret.
Eating disorders to me was something I'd read about, but I was nowhere near an expert. Where I became initially frustrated was when you work in media, you are able generally to pick up the phone and find help for whatever you need, or have someone tell you who else to call to get that help. And when we realized that Sheena had an eating disorder, there was nowhere for her to go, in not just Toronto, but in general.
I was one of the many people that you all have been able to help. Many years ago, probably 2 decades ago, I stumbled upon your staircase, and I was received with open arms, where I attended workshops on body image that were facilitated by Zara Dahani, a brown woman of color, a queer woman, and someone who was fat and self-identified as fat. And for me, that was so crucial to walk into an establishment and see someone that had some familiarity to myself as a racialized young person at the time, who could help me work through some of the issues I was having with my own negative body image, with my own self-esteem issues, with my problems with food, and really also just with my problems with navigating how I felt about my body.
I came here, I can't remember exactly, but it would be safe to say about 20 years ago as a client. And the first time I came, I was reticent. It was hard for me to admit that I had an eating disorder, especially as a full-grown adult.
Our daughter started showing signs of an eating disorder in 1999. And I remember just being so desperate as to where can I go, what must we do, where do I go? And at the time, my husband was working downtown, and Google and the internet was very much in its infancy. And I remember he ran down to the National Eating Disorder Information Center, to NEDIC, to see what was available. And he came home with information about Sheena's Place.
I was told Sheena's is a place that you could go. They don't ask you personal questions. They're strictly a support place. So I came to the yoga class. And at that time, the first yoga class, I walked in and I couldn't move. I was up against the wall. I was forced to face myself.
I had never heard of cognitive behavioral therapy before. The group, we did a lot of exercises with cognitive behavioral therapy, putting a lot of the skills into practice, and the repetition of the skills really helped me to get used to it and then also change my thought pattern. And I still use a lot of these exercises that we did even now, today, all these years later.
The teacher was very kind, and she just put a mat on the floor and she just said, well, just lie and be with us. That I could do. But then we had to stand against the wall and raise a leg, and I couldn't do it. I mean, it's not that I couldn't do it. So I burst out crying. It was so painfully cathartic. And again, everybody was so kind. But that broke through, and so I kept coming.
I mean, I was so scared coming into the building, and then I'd say after those 2 months of meeting the people in my group and then getting to know them, by the end I did feel like we were all on the same team. We were all like cheerleaders for each other. You know, it was so heartwarming and really what you need, because I think a lot of the shame comes from isolation. And feeling alone, and just the friends that I made out of that program, the support I felt, people rooting for you, like it really sort of turned my recovery around, and really helped me.
Being a client, recognizing something that was a personal challenge, almost like a spiritual challenge. Me and my eating disorder had a relationship. And we were going to combat it, and we were going to walk this earth together, but we were going to do it successfully. And then going from being a client to being a facilitator, it was a graduation that I don't know how many other people experienced such joyful, gracious gratitude.
And I just couldn't wait. I could not wait to get here from 1 week to the next. It saved my life. It saved our life. When my husband could join me at the parent groups in the evening, I think he also got a lot of his own questions answered, and also could feel that we were not alone. Families, I hope, can understand and realize that they're not alone.